I have always been the careful one. I read instructions, keep receipts, and put things back where they belong. My sister, Leah, is different in a way that makes people smile. She finds the light in a room, remembers names after hearing them once, and laughs at her own jokes. In family photos, I stand straight. She tilts her head and brightens the picture. We shared a room, a mirror, and our mother's last name. I believe that was enough to keep us close. The first crack looked small, something a little paint could cover. I had saved for months to buy a sky blue dress for my internship interview. It wasn't expensive, but it felt like a promise to myself. The color lifted my face, and the simple cut made me stand taller. The night before the interview, I ironed the dress, hung it on the back of our door, set my shoes underneath like punctuation, and packed my bag with resumes, a pen that worked, and a bottle of water. I slept with the calm that comes from being prepared. Morning came. The hanger was empty. For a steady minute, I thought I was looking at the wrong hook. I checked the wardrobe, the chair, the laundry basket. Nothing. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Leah, borrowed your dress. Wish me luck. The tone was casual, like a note passed in class. Water ran in the bathroom. My heart sped up, then tried to slow itself. I knocked. Leah? No answer. She returned an hour later, cheerful and in a hurry. She said a friend had invited her to a last-minute event and that the sky blue looked better in natural light. The dress lay over her arm, limp and marked by a dark splash near the waist. Sorry, she said, not looking up. Someone spilled a drink. You can wash it. It will come out. She left it on the bathroom floor and reached for a different outfit. I picked up the dress and carried it like a wounded thing. I ran cold water over the stain, worked dish soap into the fabric, and watched the mark loosen but not disappear. The interview was still possible, but I would need to wear something else, something that felt like a compromise I had not agreed to. I chose a plain blouse and a neat skirt. They were fine. They were not what I had planned. I told myself, it's only a dress. I said it twice so it would sound true. The world did not end. I completed the interview and came home to wash the dress again. After 2 careful cleans, the stain faded to a shadow you could still see if you searched for it. I folded the memory and put it away in the drawer where I keep things I hope to forget. I did not yet understand that small things, left alone, learn to return as larger ones. After that season, I started a tiny skincare brand from our kitchen. I like making useful things with my hands and the quiet honesty of products that do what they say. I melted butters over steaming water, stirred until the mixture turned smooth, and weighed each batch on a kitchen scale. I printed plain labels at the library and cut them straight with a ruler. I took photos on a white plate by the window where the afternoon light landed softly. Orders arrived one by one. I wrote thank you notes by hand because my customers felt like neighbors. Leah laughed at first in the way sisters do when one of them is trying something new. Look at you, scientist, she said, tapping the spoon. The laughter changed when attention arrived. She had more followers than I did, and she knew how to make people watch. She began posting my photos, my hands, my counter, my white plate, cropped so the edges told no story. Her captions said, my new line, or DM for discounts. At first, I thought it was a misunderstanding. I sent a polite message, please tag me or ask before you post. She replied with a heart emoji and relax. The next day another image appeared, sliced closer, with my labels just out of frame. She began answering messages from people who believed they were buying from her. A small, dull anger settled under my ribs, the kind you carry while you continue to work. Soon a customer asked, is that your second page? Another wrote, I paid on the other account for pickup. I explained and shared the correct link. I added my logo to every picture and changed angles so they were unmistakably mine. I told myself Leah was excited and had crossed a line by accident. When I asked her in person to stop, she smiled, an easy smile that has solved many of her problems, and said, relax. We're family. Your success is my success. The sentence sounded generous until I heard what it permitted. I said that support requires permission. She shrugged and told me I was overthinking it. Our mother wanted peace the way some people want silence. She believed the family should be a circle that closes, not a line that divides. You are the older one, she told me while drying plates. Show example. Leah will learn. I believed her and also felt the familiar weight that falls on the careful child, the unspoken assignment to carry fairness for everyone. I folded the dish towel into a square and kept quiet because quiet felt like respect. Later, I learned it can also sound like permission. Work filled my days. I mixed, packed, and posted. I answered messages kindly and walked to the post office with a bag that bumped against my leg. Each sale felt like a small vote from a stranger. I updated my page with clearer contact details and pinned, "This is the only official account." I did not point fingers or write long threads. I still hoped the problem could be solved inside our house. Looking back, I remember not only the events but the story I told myself about them. I thought love would teach its own boundaries. I thought effort could protect me from misuse. I thought patience would change what only policies could change. I was wrong in ways that were gentle at first and costly later. But at this early point, I did not know. I saw only a borrowed dress, blurred credit, and a mother who believed time would fix it if I stayed calm. So I adjusted my plans and kept working. I did not yet understand that good work needs strong boundaries, or it will be eaten alive. The message from my bank came on a hot afternoon while I was labeling jars at the kitchen table. 3 transfers, minutes apart. My savings, months of careful work, was almost empty. I stared at the numbers as if watching a roof cave in, slow at first, and then all at once. I called the bank, answered security questions, and listened to the agent confirm what the alert had already told me. The transactions were successful. The answers on file matched. Of course they did. Leah knew those answers. We grew up with the same stories. I put the phone down and felt the room tilt a little. I checked my email for any warnings I might have missed. I checked the trash folder as if the truth could be hiding there. Then I went to find Leah. She was on the sofa, scrolling. When I asked about the transfers, she did not deny it. She glanced at me, then back at her screen. "I'll pay you back," she said. "I just needed it now." The sentence was simple and heavy at the same time, like a stone dropped in water. I tried to explain the chain reaction her choice had started. Rent due next week, supplies already ordered, a cushion that no longer existed. Leah sighed. "You're dramatic. It's not that deep." She said it as if I had overreacted to a shared t-shirt, not to the removal of my safety net. My mouth felt dry. I asked her not to use my card again, not for any reason. She shrugged. "Fine." Our mother stepped in, pulled by habit and love. She stood between us and the small space that always turns kitchens into courts. "Leah, apologize," she said, and Leah muttered a sorry that fell to the floor. Then our mother turned to me. "You are the elder. Be patient. She will return it." I nodded because I have been nodding my whole life to keep the peace. Inside, I felt something shift, small, but definite, like a button popping from a shirt you wear every day. Around this time, I brought Ethan home to meet the family. We had been together for 2 years, and I believed we were building something firm. He told me I was steady, the kind of woman who can carry a home. He also said Leah was fun. I heard both comments and tried not to measure them against each other. Leah has always had a bright way with people. I tried to take it as a simple fact, not a warning. At first, I did not connect Ethan's easy laugh and Leah's presence with the slow problems in my work. I was busy. Orders still came, and I was focused on delivering well. Then customers began to ask questions that did not make sense. "Is this your second page?" one wrote. Another said, "I paid on the other account for pickup. Where's my order?" I did not have a second page, and I did not offer pickups through any other account. I opened my phone and searched. There it was, a new profile with my product photos cropped tight and my captions rewritten. It used a similar name to mine, just different enough to cause confusion. The payment details were not mine. I recognized the style of writing and the tone of the replies. I sent Leah a message. Please take this down. It is misleading. She replied with a voice note, light and quick. Relax, I'm promoting you for free. The next morning, a package I had mailed was reported missing. The customer's address was correct. The receipt in my hand was clear. I filed an inquiry at the post office and apologized to the buyer, promising a replacement at my cost. It was one package, then two. It might have been coincidence. It might have been something else. I increased tracking, photographed every parcel, and updated my terms. The extra work added hours to my nights and doubt to my mornings. In person, when I asked Leo again to stop using my photos and messaging my customers, she smiled the same easy smile and said, "Your success is my success." The sentence sounded like support and felt like erasure. I explained that support requires permission. She rolled her eyes. "You are too serious." To protect the little I could, I changed my passwords and security questions. I added a second email address for alerts and turned off autofill on the shared computer. I edited my labels and added a small mark only I could identify, so any copied photo would show the difference. I pinned a clear notice on my page. This is my only account. I updated product descriptions with phrases I could search later if needed. These were practical moves, and they helped, but they also reminded me that I was defending my own life from within my own home. Meanwhile, Ethan and Leah grew friendly in a way that was not clearly wrong, but did not feel right. He brightened when she walked into a room. She began to appear at our plans without asking, turning we into we plus Leah. I told myself to be reasonable, to trust what I had with him, to focus on facts. The facts I could name were about money, pages, and orders. The rest I put aside, labeling it later. Later arrived by phone. A stranger called about a loan application in my name. They needed one more document to finalize approval. I had not applied for any loan. I asked for details, wrote them down, and ended the call. My heart pounded in that slow, heavy way that is not fear yet, but its cousin. I checked my email. There were 2 welcome messages from services I did not recognize. I changed passwords again, one by one, and logged every change in a notebook. I contacted the bank to place alerts on my profile and documented each call, date, time, agent's name, reference number. The act of writing steadied my hands. That evening, I raised the issue with Leah once more. I spoke calmly, with details. She looked tired and annoyed. "Why do you always think I'm the problem?" she asked. I did not answer the question out loud. I do not like to accuse without proof I can carry into a room. But I knew what I knew. The timing, the access, the pattern. I knew how small slips had become a slide. Our mother tried again to make peace. "Let us pray and move on," she said softly. I respect prayer. I also respect locks, logs, and limits. I washed the dishes, dried my hands, and returned to my notebook. On a new page, I wrote one sentence in block letters. I must protect my life. From that day, I added structure to everything. I separated personal and business devices where I could. I checked statements daily for a time. I stopped leaving my bag on the hallway chair. I did not share new plans at the table. None of this was dramatic. It was a slow correction, like steering a car back into its lane after drifting across a line you didn't notice. The hardest part was not the work. It was the feeling that the ground under my feet had thinned. I had always believed that effort, kindness, and patience could hold a family together and shield honest work. Chapter by chapter, I was learning that effort needs edges and kindness needs a frame. Small cracks, if ignored, become a broken wall. By the end of that month, nothing outside looked different. I still mixed butters, printed labels, and walked to the post office. I still set the table when it was my turn and laughed when a joke was actually funny. But my view had changed. I could see the road I was standing on more clearly. I could see where it led if I kept pretending things were small. What I did next would decide whether I stayed afraid of every alert or learned to build a life that could not be taken in 3 quick transactions. I closed the notebook, set down the pen, and began the work of protecting what I had left. The night before my engagement dinner with Ethan, Leah asked me to come into our room. Her voice was soft, the kind of soft people use when they know the next thing will hurt. She held out her phone and said, "Please don't be angry." On the screen were messages between her and Ethan, late-night chats, heart emojis, and a selfie of the two of them at the cafe where he and I had made so many plans. The evidence was not dramatic. It was ordinary and clear. It did not shout. It simply stood there, and it was enough. My breathing changed. I felt the slow, heavy shock that arrives when your mind understands before your body does. Leah started to cry. "He says you're too serious," she whispered. "He says I make him feel alive." I nodded once because I did not have any words that would help. I handed the phone back and walked to the kitchen, where nothing had changed. The kettle was still on the stove. The cups were still stacked. The room did not care about the messages on a screen. I canceled the dinner in 3 steps. A short call to the restaurant, a message to my closest friends, and a final message to Ethan that read, "I saw the chats. The dinner is canceled." He called immediately. I let it ring and then sent one line, "Please do not come over." He wrote long explanations. "It just happened. I was confused. We only talked." And none of them changed the plain fact that choices were made, repeatedly. I did not argue with Leah. I did not ask why. I packed a small bag with documents, my laptop, and a few clothes, and I moved into a friend's spare room for a week. I told our mother I needed space and safety. She tried to hold both daughters in one sentence and could not. She prayed with me on the phone and asked if I needed money. I thanked her and said I would be okay. I wanted to be more than okay. I wanted to be steady. That week, I made practical decisions the way a person tightens bolts on a frame that must hold weight. I called the bank and placed additional alerts on my accounts. I asked for a list of all recent inquiries connected to my name. I submitted a fraud report for the loan call I had received and requested a security note on my credit profile. I wrote down every conversation with dates, times, and the first names of the agents who helped me. Writing turned fear into tasks. I also closed my old brand identity. It was no longer safe. I bought a new domain with a unique email, set up 2-factor authentication on every account, and created a password system that did not depend on family details. I changed the tone of my business too. My first brand had been soft and hopeful. The new one would be simple and precise, clear labels, accurate claims, and direct timelines. If customers asked why I was rebranding, I replied with one sentence: "We've made improvements and moved to a better system." On the second night away from home, I booked a counselor at a community clinic. I did not need someone to punish Leah or fix Ethan. I needed a neutral place to sit with the facts and my own decisions. During our first session, I spoke for 20 minutes and then stopped. The counselor did not interrupt to analyze me. She asked one question: "What do you want to be true about your life in 1 year that is not true today?" I said, "I want to feel safe and proud of how I responded." She nodded. "Then we will work backward from that." We built a plan with 3 parts. 1. Protection, separate devices for personal and business use, security freezes where appropriate, and a review of every shared point of access. 2. Process, replace informal habits with documented routines, purchase orders, delivery logs, customer communication templates, and refund rules. 3. Boundaries, clear limits with family about money, information, and time. Not as punishment, but as maintenance. I wrote 4 lines on a sheet of paper and pinned it above my desk. No shared passwords. All money traceable. Boundaries first, feelings next. Forgiveness is not access. On the 3rd day, Ethan arrived at my friend's building uninvited. He stood on the sidewalk with a small bag and a practiced apology. I stayed inside and called him from the hall. I told him I had nothing to discuss. He said he had ended everything with Leah. He said he had been confused. I said that honesty is not a favor and that trust, once broken, is not repaired with a promise on a street. I wished him well and ended the call. I did not block his number at once. I waited to see if he would respect my request. He did not. I blocked it the next day and felt the quiet return to my phone like air returning to a room after a door closes. By the end of the week, I moved back home to collect the rest of my things. I chose a time when Leah was out. I packed slowly and left a short note for our mother explaining that I was moving into a small sublet closer to my work. I did not leave a letter for Leah. I did not write a speech. There is a kind of dignity in naming only what belongs to you. The sublet was small but clean. The window looked over a busy street. I carried in a second-hand table, 2 sturdy shelves, and a chair that did not wobble. I set up my products in a neat line and began again. I took new photos, this time including a discreet, unique brand mark on every image. I updated the store with clear shipping times and a simple returns policy. I wrote to every active customer, "Thank you for your support. We have improved our systems to serve you better. Here is your track and trace link." Most replied with a simple "thank you." A few wished me well. 1 or 2 asked why I changed my brand name. I used the sentence I had prepared and moved on. I kept contact with Leah to a minimum. Only by email, only about necessary logistics, and never after 6 p.m. If she sent messages about feelings, I did not answer those. If our mother needed help, I responded quickly and kindly. When people asked about Ethan, I said, "We are no longer together." I did not add comments or footnotes. My counselor called this fact-only speaking. It kept my energy for the things I could change. There were quiet gains. A returning customer placed a large order for office gifts. A clinic requested a sample order after a nurse praised my balm for sensitive skin. I priced carefully and did not promise what I could not deliver. The days were full, but not frantic. In the evening, I took a short walk and returned to an apartment that held only what I had chosen. It felt like standing in a cleared field, nothing impressive yet, but room to build. I also acknowledged loss. I had lost money, time, and a planned future. I had lost the belief that patience alone guides people to do right. I had lost certain kinds of conversation in my family home. Accepting those losses did not make me bitter. It made me honest and alert. It taught me to place locks where doors had been left open out of hope. Near the end of the month, I reviewed my notes. Bank reference numbers, credit alerts, new logins, and a simple cash flow sheet that showed, in clear lines, that I could pay my rent and my supplier next month. It was not abundance. It was stability. I said thank you out loud, to the work, to the system, and to the part of me that had chosen clarity over noise. What remained was a decision about Leah. There would be a meeting at some point. Families require them. When it came, I wanted to arrive with facts, a steady voice, and a framework. I did not want to fight. I wanted terms. I did not want to be cruel. I wanted to be clear. Before I slept, I read the 4 lines above my desk again. They were not a shield against hurt. They were a map out of it. In the quiet of that small room, with the city moving outside my window, I felt the simple strength that comes from doing the next right thing. The next morning, I began the work that would carry me into the hardest conversation of my life and the beginning of a different kind of peace. 2 months after I left home, Leah sent an email with a short subject line, "Please." The message said, "I need to talk." I'm sorry. I stared at the screen for a long minute, then set conditions. I chose a public cafe, midday, 1 hour. I wrote the rules in my calendar note. We speak calmly. We discuss facts. We agree only to what can be written down. If the meeting turns into blame, I will leave. I sent her the place and time and added 1 line. We can meet for 60 minutes. Leah arrived late by 12 minutes, holding her bag with both hands. She looked thinner than I remembered. Her voice was small at first. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. I nodded and waited. She started with old habits. It wasn't that serious. I thought I was helping, then stopped. She looked down at the table. "I was jealous," she said quietly. "You look solid even when you were scared. People trust you." I kept feeling like there was no space for me. I said nothing for a moment to let the words sit. I am not responsible for another adult's jealousy, but I can listen to an explanation. Leah kept speaking. She said attention felt like oxygen, and she took my things because they were close. She said she convinced herself that family means shared everything. She said she knew she was wrong when I left, and the quiet house made the truth loud. When she finished, I told my side in plain sentences. You took my money. You used my photos. You confused my customers. A loan was attempted in my name. I lost safety, time, and income. I also lost a relationship. I did not add adjectives. Facts were enough. I know, she whispered. I am sorry. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, the way we did as children when we had no tissues. Please, how can I make it right? Right is not available, I said. But repair is possible. If we try, repair must be structured. It must be written down and monitored. I told her I was willing to create terms, not as punishment, but as protection. We took a napkin and began to write headlines that could become rules. Repayment, a fixed amount every month until the stolen savings and bank charges are fully repaid. First payment date, amount, and the account details must be written. No use of my identity. No using my name, images, products, or brand language without written permission. Communication limits. For 6 months, we communicate in writing only. No calls, no surprise visits, no messages after 6 p.m., except true emergencies. Accountability. Both of us attend counseling separately. A neutral person, our mentor, receives monthly updates that say only whether we are meeting the terms. Consequence. If a rule is broken, all contact pauses for 30 days. After that, we review with the mentor. I will try, she said. Trying is a feeling, I replied. What matters is follow-through. We typed the napkin notes into a simple agreement draft on our phones and emailed it to ourselves, our mother, and the mentor. Subject line, repair terms, draft. We did not hug. We did not take a photo. We paid for our drinks separately. We stood on the pavement and said a formal goodbye, two people who share blood and a complicated ledger. Then we walked in different directions. The meeting was not warm, but it was clean. Back in my studio, I placed the napkin in a clear folder and scanned it into a family legal/repair drive. I created a one-page summary of the terms using simple language. I set calendar reminders, check payment received, send monthly status line, review agreement date. I added a new line to my spreadsheet. Accounts receivable, Leah. It was not bitterness. It was bookkeeping. That evening I reviewed my business tasks. Orders were ready. Labels were printed. The dispatch list was clear. I sent 3 tracking links with short messages. Thank you for your order. Here is your tracking number. I closed my laptop, made tea, and sat by the window with the city moving outside. I felt steady, not happy, but steady. Before bed, I wrote to our mother. Subject, update. We met. We agreed to draft written terms for repair. A mentor will hold the document. I will keep communication in writing. I am safe. Please do not ask me to relax the rules. The rules are how we heal. She replied an hour later. I understand. I will support the terms. It was the first time she had chosen structure over hope. I thanked her and slept deeply for the first time in many weeks. Over the next few days, I kept my life simple. I did the next right task, then the next. I chose food that helped me think clearly. I kept my phone on Do Not Disturb after 8 p.m. I said no to rush orders that would break my systems. I said yes to a small pop-up market that fit my schedule. I did not check Ethan's pages. I did not revisit old photos. Calm grew where attention went. When the draft agreement returned from our mentor with clean formatting and signature lines, I read it twice, printed 2 copies, and signed mine. Leah signed hers the next day. Our mother witnessed. The mentor confirmed receipt. It was the first time our family treated respect like a process, not a hope. I filed the signed copy in the same clear folder as the napkin. Paper is slow, but it is strong. I set one final reminder in my calendar. Hold the line. Then I returned to my little table by the window, tightened the lid on a jar, and kept building a life that could stand. The first month, Leah's transfer arrived on the due date before noon. Her email was short, sent. I checked the amount, matched it to the line in the ledger, and replied with the sentence we had agreed to use. Received. Thank you. No extra words. No emotional interest on either side. The mentor received a monthly status note from me with a single line. On track. We kept to written communication. Our messages were practical. Our mother's clinic appointment time, a document she needed, a parcel that had arrived at the old address. If a topic drifted toward feelings, I moved it back to facts or ended the thread. It wasn't cold. It was clear. The agreement had also set hours. No messages after 6 p.m. unless it was a true emergency. That rule protected both of us from late-night spirals and the kind of talking that fixes nothing. I stayed in counseling. So did Leah, separately. In my sessions, I learned simple language that made my choices easier to hold. Boundaries are for protection, not punishment. Repair is measured in behaviors, not promises. Forgiveness is a door on hinges. Access is a key. My counselor said these things quietly and often. Repetition turned them from ideas into tools. Work steadied. The clinic that had tested my samples placed a modest but regular order. We put it in writing: product list, quantities, delivery window, payment terms, and a tiny late fee clause that probably would never be used but deserved to be there. I updated my labels with plain language ingredients and usage instructions. I added a small leaflet to each box describing storage and patch testing. Useful, professional, and evidence that the brand now ran on process, not guesswork. I also learned to say no without apology. When a buyer demanded a deep discount for exposure, I replied with a polite template. Thank you for thinking of us. We do not exchange products for exposure. Our prices reflect ingredients, labor, and fair margins. When a rush order would have broken my schedule, I offered the soonest reliable date instead of the fastest possible lie. Tight systems made my days calmer. Calm made my work better. Our mother changed in visible ways. She stopped saying, "She is your sister. Let it go," and began saying to Leah, "You are her sister. Let her grow." When Leah tried to soften words, our mother named the old harm plainly. Money taken is not borrowed. Customers misled are not confused. Private details used are not shared. Hearing truth in her voice made the air in our family lighter. It did not erase history. It made the present safer. The second and third payments arrived on time. Each time, I marked the ledger, sent the receipt line, and updated a small chart I kept for myself. There was no celebration. There was progress. I noticed that my body did not tense when the calendar neared the due date. Quietly, a kind of ordinary trust, the practical kind, began to take shape. Not trust in character yet, but trust in compliance. In the fourth month, the transfer did not arrive. At 4:15 p.m., Leah emailed, "I'm short this month. I need a little time." I opened the agreement and replied with the relevant sentence we had written together. Per terms, a late fee applies, and the balance is due within 14 days. New due date. Date. Please confirm. She confirmed within the hour. 7 days later, half arrived. On day 14, the rest came in. I split the entry into 2 lines in the ledger and added the late fee into the running total as agreed. I did not scold. I did not praise the catch-up. I kept the record accurate. Trust, I was learning, is a spreadsheet of repeated actions. Our mentor's role stayed light and useful. Once a month, she sent us both a 2-question email. Are the terms being met? Do you propose any changes? I answered with yes/no. Leah did too. That was the point. Accountability without drama. If something slipped, the document, not our moods, would guide the next step. Life outside the ledger kept moving. I took part in a small Saturday market and learned how to present my table so customers could understand products in less than a minute. I wrote a 2-line pitch I could say without rushing. We make simple balms for sensitive skin. This one helps seal moisture. This one calms irritation. If someone wanted a story, I gave them a professional version. We started small and built systems. We focus on clarity and care. I did not tell my private life at the stall. I set a fixed shutdown time each night and stuck to it. I did a 10-minute tidy before bed. I cooked on Sundays and labeled containers for the week. Consistency returned like a quiet friend. A family event came, a birthday tea for a cousin. I checked with our mother about arrival times and said I would come early and leave early. Leah and I greeted each other with a simple nod. No whispering corner talks. No replays of the past. When an aunt tried to steer us toward a sister photo, our mother intervened. Not today. I thanked her with my eyes. I left after 90 minutes, before the noise grew, with my boundaries intact and my civility unbent. That, too, is repair, behaving well inside limits that keep you safe. Counseling began to feel like maintenance instead of emergency response. Some sessions we worked on scripts for hard moments. How to end a call that breaks a boundary. I'm ending this conversation now. We can speak by email tomorrow. How to answer a guilt hook. I hear you. The terms remain. And how to speak to myself kindly when old hurt flared. What happened was real. What you're doing now is good. Other sessions we reviewed systems, password managers, document checklists, and a contingency plan if I were sick and needed help with orders. Strength, we agreed, is a process you can teach someone else to follow. By the end of the 6th month, the numbers told their own story. 4 on-time payments, 1 late but corrected, 1 exactly on the date. A clinic order renewed for another quarter. 3 repeat corporate gifts. 0 night messages. 1 family gathering navigated without incident. A ledger with on-time entries now outnumbering any delays. The facts were not romantic. They were better. They were stable. On the last evening of that month, I opened the clear folder and read the agreement again. Nothing in it felt heavy anymore. It felt like a well-fitted brace that allowed a weak place to heal in the right position. I put it back, locked the drawer, and stood by the window for a minute. The city was its usual loud self. Inside, my life was quiet. There was no grand reconciliation waiting around the corner. There was also no fresh disaster. There was work tomorrow, and a delivery to the clinic on Friday, and a reminder in my calendar that read, simply, stay the course. I smiled at the plain words. They had carried me further than any speech. Then I turned off the light, closed the door, and kept walking forward, on my lane, at my pace, with the fence right where it belonged. A year after I packed my first order in the sublet, I signed a 1-year lease for a small shop with a bright window and a steady stream of footsteps outside. I painted the walls white, wiped the shelves twice, and set the table where the light was kind. There were no balloons or speeches. I took a photo of the empty counter, unlocked the door, and started the day. The shop ran on checklists, not chance. A binder sat under the counter with simple headings: opening, closing, quality checks, returns, cleaning log, supplier reorder points. I kept spare labels in a clear box and stored extra jars in a marked bin. Every Friday, I counted inventory and compared it with the sales sheet. If something was low, I reordered before it became urgent. If a customer asked a question I could not answer on the spot, I wrote it down and followed up before the end of the day. The goal was not to be impressive. The goal was to be reliable. Business was not explosive, it was steady. The clinic renewed its quarterly order. 2 small offices returned for staff gifts. A few customers found us through a friend and became regulars. I priced honestly, shipped on time, and corrected mistakes quickly. When a batch came out slightly off-scent, I marked it as seconds, told the truth, and discounted it fairly. I learned that honesty, practiced early, is cheaper than repair, done late. At home, life stayed simple. I blocked a 30-minute close-of-day review to reconcile orders and email. Midweek, I ran a supplier check and updated reorder points. Counseling stayed on the calendar as maintenance, not emergency. I wasn't chasing a perfect feeling, just a steady rhythm I could keep. The agreement with Leah continued to do its quiet work. Most months, the transfer arrived on the date. On the rare month it did not. She used the process we had written: notify, pay within 14 days, include the small late fee. I marked the ledger and moved on. We kept to written communication, business hours only. Our emails were short and clear. Our mother's appointments, a document request, a package wrongly delivered. There were no midnight calls, no surprise visits, no attempts to renegotiate in the moment. Progress did not look like closeness. It looked like compliance. Family events stayed calm under the rules. Arrive early, leave early, no last-minute negotiations. Expectations were clear, so conversations stayed respectful. Our mother kept her promise to support structure. When relatives tried to turn pain into entertainment, she redirected the topic. Truth had become a habit, not a punishment. One quiet Tuesday afternoon, a message landed in my social media requests folder. It was from Ethan. I heard about your shop. I'm happy for you. Can we talk? I read it once, felt nothing useful rise, and deleted it. Not out of anger, out of policy. I chose calm over contact. Customers sometimes asked for the story. I kept it professional and short. We started small, learned a lot, and built systems, I said. Now we focus on clarity and care. If someone pressed for drama, I offered product education instead: ingredients, patch testing, how to store bombs in warm weather. I sell products, not personal drama. There were still ordinary problems. A courier misplaced a box. A supplier delayed a shipment. A lid cracked during transit. Each issue cost time and a little money. None of them cost my peace because they were covered by process: replace, refund, document, improve. I began to understand why pilots use checklists even after thousands of flights. Calm is not luck, it is practice. On a rainy evening, I opened the clear folder labeled Family, Repair, and read the signed agreement end to end. It no longer felt like a brace. It read like a clear operating manual that kept everyone honest. The ledger showed on-time entries now outnumbered late ones by a wide margin. I closed the folder, locked the drawer, and felt the quiet satisfaction of clean records. When I looked around the shop the next morning, I saw a room that told the truth. Shelves I could keep filled, orders I could fulfill, promises I could keep. That was my measure of success. Not noise, not applause, not scale I could not sustain. Just a life that worked, with enough space in it for kindness that did not cost me safety. If anyone reading this needs the short version, here are the 5 lines I keep above my desk, the same ones that have carried me from crisis to order. Love needs boundaries, or it will drown. Apology accepted does not mean access restored. Repair is measured in behaviors, not promises. Pain is data. Use it to design better systems. The best revenge is a quiet, stable life. My sister once took money, customers, and the man I planned to marry. She almost took my future. She did not take my name, my work ethic, or my ability to build again. I learned to lock what must be locked and to open what can be opened. I learned to hold the line without raising my voice. Forgiveness is a door on hinges, and I keep the key. Some say family is everything. Others say family must respect rules. Where do you stand? Drop your answer below. Family first or boundaries first? And share the moment you changed your mind.